I never thought I'd torch my own bloodline, but when Dad's text hit my phone at 2 a.m., "Don't bother showing up to the reunion, Autumn. You're dead to us," I didn't cry. I laughed, a sharp, ugly bark that echoed off my apartment walls in that godforsaken Phoenix heat. And then I fired up my laptop, cracked open the family trust documents I'd buried in a thumb drive for years, and started erasing my name from the $2.5 million loan that had chained us all together like a noose disguised as a lifeline. It wasn't impulse. It was the slow burn of a lifetime of lies, the kind that festers in American dream rot, suburban facades hiding foreclosures, barbecues masking bankruptcies, and Thanksgivings laced with unspoken IOUs. I'd co-signed that monster of a loan back in 2018 when the family business, Dad's legacy, auto empire in Scottsdale, teetered on collapse after the recession clawed back what the housing bubble had promised. "You're the smart one, Autumn." He'd wheedled over whiskey sours at the country club, his eyes glassy with that mix of charm and desperation only a failing patriarch can muster. "College degree, steady job at the bank. Sign here, kiddo. It's just paper. Family sticks together." I was 25, fresh out of ASU with an MBA that felt like fool's gold in a gig economy, buried under student loans that made this family favor seem like chump change. But it wasn't. That signature? It was me volunteering as the sacrificial lamb, propping up their empire while they partied on. Little did I know, the ink had barely dried before they started whispering about how I'd always been the problem child, the one who asked too many questions about the books. The one who'd covered for Uncle Ray's gambling sprees, funneling cash from the till to Vegas, without a whisper of regret. I'd found the discrepancies first, ledgers that didn't add up, missing deposits that screamed embezzlement. But when I confronted Dad, he gaslit me into silence. "Ray's family, Autumn. Blood's thicker than audits. You want to destroy us." So I swallowed it. For years, I swallowed the audits I fudged at my day job to keep their loans afloat, the late-night calls from collection agencies I fielded like a human shield. Mom's cancer treatments? Paid from the slush fund I'd helped hide. The twins' Ivy League tuitions? Siphoned from the same tainted well. I was the ghost in the machine, the invisible cog keeping the wheels turning while they toasted my absence at galas. And all the while, that $2.5 million hung over me like a guillotine, my credit tanking, my dreams of starting my own consulting firm evaporating because one bad quarter could drag me under with them. The reunion invite arrived 6 months ago, a gilt-edged slap in the face. Harrington Family Legacy Bash, July 4th, Lake Tahoe Estate. No mention of me, of course. I'd been persona non grata since the incident last Christmas, when I'd finally snapped and accused Uncle Ray of cooking the books in front of the whole clan. Dad's face had gone purple, veins bulging like the fireworks we used to shoot off in the backyard. "Get out, you ungrateful bitch," he'd hissed, while Aunt Linda cooed about Autumn's delusions over eggnog. Delusions. As if the IRS letters I'd intercepted weren't real, as if the $200,000 shortfall I'd plugged with my own savings wasn't a gaping wound. But the real knife twist? The secret I'd carried like a tumor since I was 18. It wasn't just Ray's thefts. It was Dad's. The auto empire wasn't failing from bad luck. It was gutted by his affair, a decade-long bleed of company funds to keep his mistress in a condo downtown, complete with fake invoices for consulting services. I discovered it accidentally, rifling through his desk for holiday cash during my freshman year break. Photos, receipts, love letters stained with bourbon. I'd confronted him in the garage, rain hammering the tin roof like accusations. "Dad, this'll ruin us." He'd crumpled, begged, first for forgiveness, then for cover. "You're my girl, Autumn. Fix it. Make it go away." So I did. Forged the docs, buried the trail, lied to the accountants. Took the hit when the first audit flagged irregularities, letting Ray play the fall guy for a lesser sin while Dad skated free. It was my first taste of betrayal's acid burn, the man who'd taught me to ride a bike now teaching me to drown in his sins. And Mom? She knew. Found out years later, during chemo, and her parting shot from the hospice bed? "Protect him, baby. He's all we have." Protect the monster. For family. By the time Dad's text landed, I'd hit my limit. No more. The reunion was their victory lap, selling the business to a chain for a fat payout, the loan refinanced under new terms that left me exposed. Exposed and erased. I stared at that message, thumb hovering over delete, then pivoted to my bank portal. It took 3 hours. Calls to lawyers I'd networked with at conferences, emails to the lien holders with my notarized withdrawal affidavits. Co-signer revocation. I typed, heart pounding like a jackhammer. By dawn, it was done. My name, scrubbed. Their lifeline, severed. The fallout hit like a monsoon. First call came at 7 a.m. Uncle Ray, voice slurred from whatever he'd chased the night with. What the hell? Autumn. The bank's freezing everything. You trying to tank us? I sipped my coffee, black as my mood, and let the silence stretch. Ray, you gambled away half our inventory. Remember that. He sputtered, pivoted to charm. Come on, kid, family's forever. But I hung up, blocking the number. Next was Aunt Linda, all faux concern. Sweetie, this is a misunderstanding. Come to Tahoe, let's talk. Misunderstanding. As if my entire adult life hadn't been one. Dad called last, voice a gravelly wreck. You little traitor. After everything I've done. I cut him off, voice steady as rebar. Everything you've done? Like pimping your daughter to cover your whore's rent? Or letting me eat the blame for your fuck-ups? Silence, then a low growl. You think you're clean? That money you've saved from your job? It was ours. Blood debt. Blood debt. The phrase that had justified every lie, every late-night forging signatures. I laughed again, colder this time. Pay back, Dad. Or watch it all burn. That was the spark. What followed was a war of whispers and wire transfers, a digital siege across state lines. They lawyered up fast, some shark from Phoenix with a toupee like a bad toupee ad, filing motions to reinstate my signature, claiming duress and familial coercion. Bullshit, of course. I dotted every I, but courts love a sob story, especially when it's wrapped in apple pie Americana. The twins texted from their Yale dorms. This is messed up, sis. Dad's having a breakdown. Breakdown. As if I hadn't had mine in therapy sessions paid for by the very slush fund I'd protected. But I wasn't fighting alone. Turns out, secrets have half-lives, and mine was expiring. An old colleague from the bank, Javier, sharp as a stiletto, with a grudge against Ray from a bounced payroll check, tipped me off to the real dirt. Dad hadn't just skimmed for his mistress. He'd laundered through shell companies tied to a cartel-adjacent auto parts ring down in Tucson. Nothing violent, no narco shootouts in the style of those Netflix fever dreams, but enough gray market dealings to make the feds perk up. You want leverage? Javier emailed, attaching grainy PDFs of wire transfers. Feed this to the right ears. Leverage. The word tasted like ash, but I swallowed it. Sent anonymous packets to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Phoenix, CCNG the family lawyer for good measure. Watched from afar as the reunion imploded. Caterers canceled. Guests bailed. The Tahoe estate looming empty under July sun like a bloated carcass. Dad's voicemails escalated. Rage. Then please. Then that final, fractured whisper. Autumn, please.
I'm sorry.
For everything.
Sorry.
Too late for sorry when the loan defaulted, triggering foreclosures on the Scottsdale showrooms, the family home, even Mom's memorial garden with its rose bushes I'd planted with my own blisters. Yet here's the controversy that gnaws at me. Even now, as I type this from a coffee shop in Flagstaff, new life half-built. Was I the villain? They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but mine came with a side of collateral carnage. The twins dropping out, Aunt Linda's stroke from the stress, Ray's OD scare in a Motel 6 off I-10. I didn't pull triggers, but I loaded the guns. And Dad? Last I heard, he's crashing on couches, peddling used F-150s from a Laudanuma, eyes hollowed like the man who'd once promised me the stars. The twist? It wasn't over. 3 weeks post-reunion, a letter arrived, not from them, but from her. The mistress. Elena, her name was, in looping script on lavender stationery. Autumn, your father lied to us both. He said you were the thief, the reason it all crumbled. But I know better now. Enclosed, $50,000. From the condo sale. Use it to start over. Forgive him? I can't. But hate me less. 50 grand. Clean money, or as clean as it gets in this mess. I stared at the check, pulse thundering. Cash it, and I was complicit again. Tear it up, and what? Let her ghost haunt me too? I cashed it. Bought a cabin up in Sedona. Red Rocks, whispering redemption, I don't quite buy. Family's forever, they say, but mine's up higher, and I'm the one holding the match. Was it justice? Or just another betrayal, this time of my own making?
You tell me.
In America, where the dream's just a loan away from nightmare, who's really keeping score? That check from Elena sat on my dashboard for days, a paper phoenix mocking me as I drove the winding switchbacks up to Sedona. $50,000, enough to buy freedom, or at least the illusion of it. But freedom's a tricky bitch in the land of the free. It comes with receipts, regrets, and the rearview mirror glare of what you've left smoldering. I pulled over at a scenic overlook, vortex tourists snapping selfies against the rust-red buttes, oblivious to the storm brewing in my Chevy. What now, Autumn? I muttered, crumpling the envelope like it owed me answers. The wind whipped it from my fingers, tumbling it toward the abyss, but I snatched it back. Not yet. Not until I understood the why. Elena's letter had cracked something open, a fissure in the narrative I'd armored myself with. Dad wasn't just the monster. He was the architect of monsters, pitting us against each other like pawns in his personal Hunger Games. She'd attached photos, not the glossy affair snapshots I'd glimpsed as a kid, but candid ones. Her and Dad at a dive bar in Bisbee, laughing over cheap tacos, a sonogram from '09, the year before I found out, a toddler with his eyes, mine too in the shape of a jaw. A half-brother, unacknowledged, unclaimed, raised on her waitressing tips and whatever Dad funneled through back channels. He told me you'd never forgive, she wrote. But blood calls to blood.
Blood.
That word again, slimy as ever. I drove on, radio blasting Springsteen, Born to Run, ironic as hell, until the cabin came into view, a squat Adobe number off Highway 89A, rented sight unseen for 3 months. No Wi-Fi, spotty cell, just me and the coyotes for company. Perfect for unraveling. I unpacked in a haze, boxes of books on forensic accounting, my new obsession. A bottle of mezcal from Javier as a congrats on the scorched earth gift, and that damn check, now taped to the fridge like a hostage. Sleep came in fits, dreams of family barbecues morphing into inquisitions, Dad on the grill, flipping burgers that bled ink, Ray dealing cards from a ledger, the twins chanting traitor in Yale cadences. Woke sweating, heart jackhammering, to a knock at dawn. Not coyotes. A man, mid-40s, Stetson tipped low, badge glinting under his denim jacket. Ms. Harrington? Special Agent Torres, FBI Phoenix Field Office. Mind if we chat?
Sha.
As if federal heat was a coffee clutch. He stepped inside without waiting, boots tracking red dust, eyes scanning like I was a suspect sketch. Heard you might have some light to shed on your father's.
Eddie. Light.
More like the floodlights I'd aimed at their underbelly. I poured coffee, black, handed him a mug with steady hands, years at the bank honing that poker face. What about them? He sipped, grimaced. Laundering. Through auto parts, mostly. Cartel ties, low level, but enough to ping our radar. Your tip was gold, Ms. Harrington. Led us to Shell Core, frozen assets. But here's the rub. Your name's on half those docs. Co-signer, signatory. You want to explain before cuffs come out?
Cuffs.
The word landed like a gut punch. I'd revoked the loan, sure, but the deeper rot, the forgeries, the covers I'd done from my bank terminal, IP traceable, alibis thin as mesquite smoke. I was protecting the family, I said, voice flat. Half-truth. He leaned forward, Stetson creasing. Family? Or covering felony fraud? Your pop's singing like a canary in holding, Says you orchestrated it all, the smart one calling shots.
Dad.
Flipping the script, painting me as the mastermind to save his hide. Classic. The man who'd begged me to bury his sins now exhuming mine for bait. Torres left with my statement, a vague promise of immunity discussions, and a business card that burned my palm. I called Javier next, signal flickering. Feds? Shit, Autumn, I told you to ghost it.
Ghost.
As if I could. He patched me through to a contact, a civil rights attorney in Tucson, Elena Vasquez, no relation but sharp as cacti spines. Plea to lesser charges, she advised over crackly line. Testify against Daddy Dearest, walk with probation.
Testify.
Betray the betrayer. The irony coiled tight. But Dad's flip ignited the real firestorm. Words spread like Arizona wildfire. Cousins posting cryptic Facebook rants about the daughter who sold us out. Old high school friends demanding with pitchfork emojis. The twins showed up unannounced 2 days later, hauling duffels and entitlement, ivy polish scuffed by desperation. Sis, this is insane, Becca wailed, collapsing onto my thrift store couch, mascara rivers down her cheeks. Dad's in jail, the house is an auction, and God, Ray's gone AWOL. Jake paced, all across build and law school bluster. You had to nuke it all? For what? Spite. Spite. If only. I brewed tea, chamomile, Mom's recipe, while they vented, a torrent of accusations laced with pleas. We didn't know, Becca sobbed. About the money, the woman. Dad said you were. Unstable. Unstable. The family euphemism for won't play along. I showed them the photos, Elena's letter, the sonogram. Jake's face drained white. A brother?
Jesus.
Becca touched the image, tentative. Does he? No. I shook my head. Not yet. But I do. That's when the scheming kicked in, Ray's specialty, but Dad's legacy. Jake, ever the opportunist, leaned in. Look, we cut a deal. You recant the tip, we lawyer up together. Blame Elena, say she coerced Dad. Family united. United. The word slithered like a sales pitch. Becca nodded, eyes hopeful. And, the reunion? We can reschedule. Make it right.
Right.
As if Tahoe could wash the blood debt clean. I played along for a night, feeding them wine and half-truths, watching their masks slip, the twins admitting they'd known about the extra tuition money, shrugged it off as Dad's perks. By morning, I'd wired Vasquez the check's deposit, signed retainer papers, and slipped out before their hangover brunches. Drove south to Bisbee, Elena's address scrawled on a napkin. The town clung to hills like a miner's regret, tumbleweeds of tourists, copper ghosts in the saloons. Her place was a shotgun rental, porch sagging under potted chiles, a boy's bike chained to the rail. She answered wary, crow's feet deepening around eyes like Dad's, warm brown, liar's shade. Autumn. No surprise, just resignation. We sat on mismatched rockers, the kid, Tommy, 8 now, kicking a soccer ball in the yard, oblivious. He looks like him, I said, voice cracking for the first time. She nodded, lit a clove cigarette. And you? Stubborn jaw. Stories spilled then, unbidden. How Dad recruited her as inventory consultant, bedded her in the showroom after hours. How the funds dried up when I started sniffing. How she raised Tommy on tips from the diner, telling him his dad was away on business. Why the check? Asked finally. She exhaled smoke rings, philosophical. Karma's a ledger, Mija. I kept records too. Gave the feds what you missed, offshore trails. Your pop's done.
But you.
You're free if you want it.
Free.
Again that word. But Torres called that afternoon. Deal's on. Testify, no charges. Harrington Sr.'s pleading to 10 years. 10 years. Justice, or just another cage. The climax brewed in a Tucson courthouse, monsoon season raging outside like divine judgment. Dad in orange, shackled, eyes meeting mine across the docket, pleading, then hardening to hate. You did this, he mouthed as the judge intoned counts. Fraud, laundering, endangerment. I took the stand, voice steady. He made me complicit, but I chose to end it. Gasps from the gallery, Aunt Linda dabbing tears, the twins absent, Jake's text, "Can't watch the circus." The prosecution painted me hero, defense, Patsy turned Viper. Twitter lit up. Family Feud Phoenix trending, op-eds debating, is loyalty a crime? Pundits split. Feminists cheering the daughters' revolt, conservatives decrying the blood oath breach. But the real divide? When Elena testified next, Tommy in tow, revealing Dad's final flip, a jailhouse note to her, promising appeals, family expansion if she waited. Waited. For the man who'd discarded us both. The courtroom hushed as she tore it, ashes fluttering like confetti. "No more debts," she said. Dad's face crumpled. First real crack I'd seen. Yet as the gavel fell, my phone buzzed. Ray, from a burner. "Nice show, niece. But you forgot the kicker. That $200,000 you plugged? Traced your accounts. Feds incoming."
Ray.
The schemer supreme, flipping last, framing me to cut his own deal. Betrayal's hydra, heads multiplying. Ray's text hit like lightning in a bottle, sudden, shattering, illuminating every dark corner I'd ignored. "Check your email, Autumn. Courtesy of your favorite uncle." Attached, bank statements, timestamps matching my savings plugs, IP logs from the bank's VPN tying the forgeries to my login. Forged? No. Real as the sweat beading on my neck in that courthouse hallway, echoes of Dad's sentencing fading behind me. I'd done it. Yeah, but Ray had layered in extras. Dummy transfers to offshore dummies, enough to paint me not just complicit, but the queenpin. "Your move," his note ended. "Or we all drown."
Drown.
The word choked me as I bolted from the building, rain sheeting down in biblical fury, blurring taillights on Speedway Boulevard. Elena caught my arm at the doors, Tommy huddled under her jacket. "What now?" she asked, voice a lifeline in the deluge. I shoved the phone at her, words tumbling. "He's framing me. To save himself." Her face hardened, that shared jaw clenching. "Then we fight dirty."
Dirty.
The Harrington way, upgraded. We holed up in her Bisbee rental that night, Tommy asleep to cartoons, while Elena pulled strings. Her records weren't just Dad's. She'd networked with ex-cons turned informants, a web of lowlifes who'd owed Ray favors. By midnight, we had his playbook. Burner calls to a fixer in Nogales, payoffs to scrub his name from the cartel dockets. "He's flipping everyone," she said, mapping it on a diner napkin. "You, me, even the boy."
The boy.
My half-brother, 8 and innocent, leverage in a Game of Thrones gone toxic. I drove back to Sedona at dawn, mind a racetrack of what-ifs. What if I ran? Canada border a day's haul. Javier's contacts smuggling gigs across Vancouver. But running's the American sin. Cowards out in a nation built on stand-your-grounds.
No.
I called Vasquez, voice steel. "Raise the ghost."
They.
She did. Fast, subpoenaed his motel cams, traced the email spoof to a cyber cafe in Tempe. By noon, Torres was on the line. "Your uncle's the rat. We flipped him an hour ago." Walked into our net thinking he was buying silence. Flipped. The word echoed, a carousel of betrayals. But Ray's gambit had teeth. The feds hauled me in for clarification, a sterile interrogation room in Phoenix smelling of stale Joe and despair. Torres across the table, good cop now, sliding photos. Ray in cuffs, snarling at the mirror. He confessed everything, your covers, but also his setups. Says you greenlit the cartel runs. Greenlit? Lie, but sticky as tar. I leaned in, channeling every boardroom bluff. Ray's the snake. Dad's puppet master. Test me. Polygraph next, needles dancing as I recited sins. The forgeries, yes. The tips, yes. The revenge, hell yes. Truth, the tech grunted. Torres nodded, slow. You're clear. But the family's toxic. Cut 'em, or they'll drag you back.
Clear.
The word tasted like absolution, but absolution's fleeting in redemption arcs. Outside, media vultures circled. Fox locals decrying Harrington dynasty implosion, daughter's revenge or ruin? CNN churning family betrayal, when loyalty kills the dream. Debates raged online. Was I Avenger or Accelerant? Threads split. Autumn hero for the whistleblower who saved taxpayers, Harrington horror for the kinslayer who orphaned her siblings. Pundits picked sides, therapists on the damage of generational trauma, economists on white-collar crime's suburban face. No consensus, just the delicious divide. Readers arguing in comments, she had it coming versus blood ain't bank. The reunion's ghost haunted hardest. Tahoe footage leaked, empty tents flapping in wind, uneaten ribs rotting on grills, a drunk cousin toasting to absent traders. Aunt Linda's stroke? Blamed on me in her hospital blog, Autumn's curse. The twins? Radio silence turned to shunning. Becca's LinkedIn scrubbed of my name. Jake's law firm internship mysteriously yanked. Collateral, sure, but controversy's currency. My cabin mailbox stuffed with hate mail, family first pamphlets from megachurches, even a GoFundMe for Harrington victims, netting $47,000 before feds shut it as fraud. Yet the twist coiled deeper, in the quiet hours when coyotes yipped like accusatory juries. Elena and Tommy visited once, a trial run at family. He was shy, all limbs and questions. You knew my dad? I nodded, throat tight. Kinda. We hiked Bell Rock, vortex hum vibrating lies into truths, stories of mom's roses, dad's bad jokes, the auto yard's oil slick magic before it soured.
Elena Wacket, cigaret un lit.
You could be his aunt, she said.
Aunt.
The role I'd never claimed, now offered like a truce flag. Dad wrote from prison. First letter in months, scrawled on lined paper smelling of institutional bleach. Autumn. I flipped because I had to. Ray had dirt on the boy. Threatened Elena. Protect the bloodline like you taught me. Taught him. The inversion gutted me. Enclosed, a key to a safe deposit box in Flagstaff. Your inheritance.
Clean.
Use it wise.
Wise.
I drove there alone. Box heavy as guilt. Deeds to a sliver of the old lot. $100,000 in bonds. A letter from mom. Pre-hospice. Her script shaky. Baby, forgive him. He was broken before you. But don't break too. Broken. We all were. Shards of the dream. Jagged edges cutting deep. I sold the lot. Donated half to a women's shelter in Phoenix. Kept the bonds for Tommy's college. Cash mom's words like currency, framing the letter by my bed. Forgiveness?
Not yet.
But the hate? It ebbed, replaced by a wary peace, the kind forged in American grit, therapy apps, support groups for adult orphan syndrome, hikes where red rocks absorb the screams I couldn't voice. Ray got 8 years, plea deal crumbling under his own weight. Elena and Tommy? We built tentative bridges, weekends in Bisbee, teaching him chess, dad's game, repurposed. The twins thawed slow. Becca's apology text. I get it now. Miss you. Jake's curt. Therapy mandatory. Lunch. Lunch. Baby steps in a marathon of mending. Ending? Pick your poison. If happy's redemption, it's here. In the cabin's fire crackle, Tommy's laughter echoing, Elena's hand brushing mine over coffee. If tragedy, it's the scar tissue. Dad dying in a cell of complications, gray hair and alone. The family empire a crater, lessons in ash. Me? I'm the fulcrum, balanced on the edge where right meets wrong, hero to some, harpy to others. In this vast, unforgiving republic, revenge isn't a win. It's a mirror, reflecting the monsters we all harbor. Debate me if you dare. But remember, blood's thicker than water. But ink? Ink drowns us all.